What is going on, guys? Corrosive Bullet here, and we are going to be going over the Green Archtype for Set 2 Blazing Aura of Dragon Ball Super Card Game Fusion World. Same as the last couple videos, it's going to be the exact same structure. We're going to go over every single card, talk about their versatility, usability, and kind of my own personal thoughts on what we're going to be doing with each of these cards in this set. So without further ado, let's just kind of jump into it. If you guys want to see more Fusion World content and more breakdown videos like this, let me know down in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel to see more, like the video if you enjoyed yourselves, and let's get into it. So, 1 leader for the green, as with every other color. We got Cell. 15k power. When attacking, draw 1 card. And then on awaken, you go down to 4 or less, draw a card, then flip this card over. And then, whoops, a little bit early there. And then on his awakened side, when attacking, you draw a card, and then activate main once per turn. If you have 5 energy specifically, add up to 1 card with a cost of 3 or more from your drop to your energy. It was a little questionable when this card first got announced as to how this was going to be used. And I think as time kind of went on, we'll get into it with some of these other cards, especially a very particular SR that people were raving about when it was announced. But this leader isn't so bad when you take into account the actual engine that is going to be used when using this leader. This Cell is going to have to use a very specific engine to be able to do the things that you need to do. And a lot of the cards in this set kind of help to facilitate that a little bit. Then we got 1-drop Kami, 5k power, 10k combo. On play, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with a cost of 1 or less and KO it. Green lacks a lot of KO ability or early game potential. As we've seen in set 1, the typical meta is not really play anything your first 2 turns and destructive strength on turn 3 to start your ramping process. That's kind of been the staple. Turn 1, turn 2, the most you could ever really do was either use a searcher or use a cantrip in the form of Goku. You also had like the 2-drop like Trunks essentially for a little bit of swinging potential, but if in a green mirror match in set 1, using that Trunks was not really viable whatsoever. So, mainly because if in a green mirror match, you're not really attacking battle cards at all in the first couple turns. So, having something like this to help clear board, I think is kind of nice, and it gives a little bit of versatility to the turn 1 strat when it comes to green. Would I see myself using this a lot? It really kind of just depends on the build itself, but I think it's a pretty solid card, all things considered. Then we got 1 cost, 5k power, 5k combo Corrin. He's got a permanent skill where he reduces the cost of extras with Corrin Tower in their special traits by 1. This specifically affects the Senzu Bean extra card, which when the Senzu Bean card was initially announced, it was also kind of questionable in terms of its usability. This makes it a little bit more usable, not needing to pay 2 energy as opposed to just the 1 by having this guy on board. Again, it'll probably require a little bit more testing to kind of mess around and see the viability of this card, but at least a card like this will allow Senzu Bean to kind of flourish. Maybe not necessarily this set, maybe in further sets down the road. Then we got 1 cost, 5k power, 10k combo, Karoni, Pizza, and Perotsky, which is just a 5k blocker. Not 100% sure how this is going to be usable. There are cards that we're going to go over down the line that require Earthling special trait cards on board to really make effect of a card like this. And I believe there is a Hercule card that also benefits from this too later on, and we'll discuss it when it gets to the set. But just looking at it right now, just as a card, standalone card by itself, it's not great. 10k combo, I guess, is great, but in terms of playability as a blocker, I don't really see it. So then we got a 2 cost, 20k power, 0 combo Krillin, where on play you look at the top 5 cards from your deck, Reveal up to one Android 18 or up to one extra and add it to your hand. Place the rest of the bottom deck of your card. Set 1, I believe, already has a card like this for Krillin. And I believe it's also in green too. So, if anything, this, I think, just makes him a little bit more of a turn 2 option by being able to swing and deal damage to your opponent's leader while also searching. Whereas I believe the Krillin from set 1 is only a searcher and maybe doesn't have the most going on with him in terms of actual battle strength. So a bit more viable of a Krillin. The 0 cost combo, I think, hurts him more than anything else. So whether you would play this or the set 1 Krillin, I'm not 100% sure what the viability is. But it's an Earthling, and as I said, other cards later on in this breakdown will utilize that Earthling special trait. So there's some viability with him for sure. Then we got the Super Combo, Android 16. Depending on your deck build, I believe Android 20 or Dr. Gero card may make this guy searchable. Might have to double check and do some extra research on that just to double check, but he's definitely just a super combo. Again, he does nothing really special, and he's just a super combo. Nothing more to be said about that. Then we got a 3 cost 25k power, 5k combo, Android 17, who does crit. Obviously, 25k crit is really strong. Applies that little bit of extra pressure, especially on a front side. On the front side of any leader, being only 15k, meaning that your opponent's going to have to either super combo or play 2 cards just to kind of get out of them, get out of a swing. So a little bit of extra pressure that you can put on your opponent. He's not bad for a 3 cost. Then we got the coup de grace for the Android 17 leader. We got a 4 cost, 20k power, 10k combo, Android 17 and 18. On play, you place 2 cards from your energy in your drop, and if your leader is Android 17, add up to 3 cards with Android in their special traits from your drop to your energy. This is actually a really strong card, mainly due to the fact that you could play this multiple times throughout a match for how little cost he is, while also giving yourself a little bit of board presence. And while placing 2 cards from your energy in your drop seems like it's actually kind of detrimental, playing this in Cell is actually going to be really good, because basically on turn 4 you play this guy, you play these 2, you go down to 2 energy, but then you're able to ramp up to 3. So long as you can get that curve on play at this specific time, you can get your leader up to, you can get yourself up to 5 energy, which activates Cell's leader skill, which allows you to add an energy to your energy pool in active mode, which takes you from basically 4 to 6. So you're getting a double ramp from this off the Cell leader. Very, very good on play effect. Not really strong in the case of his actual power level, but being able to run 4 of these in a Cell deck or even in an Android 17 deck is actually very beneficial, I think. Very strong card, very good card for green. Especially when it comes to playing. Again, it's a matter of playing Android specifically. So for Android 17 leader and Cell leader, this is just a really strong card. Then we got a 2 cost, 20k power, 10k combo, Android 18 vanilla beat stick. Nothing crazy here, just more Android options for either Android deck. Same with this Android 19, 15k, 1 drop, 10k combo. Just a turn 1 option that gives that's searchable in an Android leader deck, and being able to swing on your opening turn, it's not a bad option again. Then we got a 3 cost, 20k power, 5k combo, Android 20. Activate main, you discard 1 card from your hand and KO this card. Choose up to 1 of your Android 17 cards and switch it to active mode. First off, I just need to make mention that I think it's really funny that a lot of these green Android 20 cards have this ability where you KO him off the board. It's just funny to me. It's really funny to me. I don't know. I understand that obviously the androids ended up killing Android 20 in the series, but it's still just a matter of let's stick with this. In terms of reactivating an Android 17 and putting them back into active, I don't know how viable this is, given every Android 17 that we have in play. is only usually 20k, I think, more than anything else. We had the new 3-drop 25k crit Android 17. I guess the beauty of this card would be that you already have an Android 17 on board. You played this guy maybe on your turn 4 maybe, and then you swing with both of them. You KO this guy to then swing again with an Android 17. This guy's got some usability. This isn't like the 3-cost Android 20 that KOs himself to look for Giroux's Lab. I've whiffed so many times with that card that I really am not a fan of this KO effect personally. But this Android 20 I think actually has a bit of use compared to some of the other ones that are in set 1. So that's at least something for him. Then we already kind of talked about this card. 1-drop, 5k power, 10k combo Spy Robot. Activating main once per turn. Choose 3 cards from your opponent's hand and reveals them. I think turn 1, I don't think this is the worst card to really play. Seeing kind of what your opponent's going to go for and what they have available in hand early on gives you a little bit of a setup for success, knowing exactly how your opponent's going to be on curve the next couple turns. That said, this guy's not searchable. If you don't end up pulling him on your first hand or when you mulligan, like, playing this guy later in the match, I feel like is going to not really benefit you in the long term. Especially when you're in turn 4 or 5 and everyone's got closer to like 8, 9, 10 cards in hand. Like 3 cards out of a 10 card hand is just not. It's not it. It's not the move. I don't think this card's all that great. I don't think it's all that good. Maybe turn 1, I think it has the most usability. Maybe turn 2, depending on if your opponent goes first or not. But all in all, I think it's a rather subpar card. If this was searchable, it would be a little bit different potentially, but as of the moment right now, it's not. Then we have a 2-cost 15k, 10k combo First Form Cell. Activate main once per turn. Place 1 card with Earthling and its special traits from your energy into your drop. To this card gets 15,000 power for the turn. A 2-cost 30k is actually really strong. The problem with this card, though, is that it really needs the Earthling special trait to be run in the deck. And one, there's not a whole lot of Earthling cards, I think, in general that really benefit green at the moment. They don't really have a substantial impact to really help you out. And the fact that this needs to be specifically in your energy from your drop. Playing this for 2, I could see maybe later in the match this having some usability, just because you don't want to sacrifice ramp early on, especially when, like, as it currently stands right now in set 1, your earliest time to ramp is on turn 2 or turn 3. So I don't like this effect. I don't like this effect early on. I think this puts Cell in a bad place early on. But who knows? Later turns, I could see some usability from this, especially if you are trying to gain. If you're trying to help yourself get the effect off of Leader Cell. We'll have to see with some testing when set 2 releases, but he's okay for turn 2. It's just the matter that he's 15k on turn 2. Not really applying a whole lot of pressure in the early game. This is more of a late game card, in my opinion. Then we got a 3-cost, 25k power, 10k combo, Beat Stick Cell. I mean, 25k on turn 3 is really good. 10k combo is fine. Vanilla Beat Stick is whatever. This is going to be more so something that you use with one of the extra cards, which we'll get into later. As a standalone card by itself, though, it's not all that great, but with other cards and other strategies, this card can be pretty handy. So now we got we got the big boy of this set for green. We got 8-cost, 45k, 0 combo Cell. Now, this guy I think was being very underestimated when it came to deciding how well this guy was going to be in turn 2. There was some initial freak out because obviously Broly exists in green, and people were thinking that this guy was going to replace, and then people were thinking that this guy coupled with Broly was going to be like game breaking, like you wouldn't be able to do anything. But I think let's go through the card first and explain what he actually does. and we'll explain why that shouldn't be a concern for people, just because it really isn't. So anyway, so on play, you have to play 3 cards from your energy into your drop. So you're going from, you have to be at 8 to play this guy. Then you're going back down to 5. You choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards and KO them. Then add the top card of your deck to your life. So now here's where I kind of stand on this card. In the Cell deck, this is the perfect card for Leader Cell. You go up to 8 energy, you play this guy. You remove 3 energy from your energy pool to go from 8 to energy to 5. KO 2 cards, then you add the top card of your deck to your life, gain up to 1. That's a strong effect in itself, but couple this with the Cell Leader, who needs to be at 5 energy to be able to get the benefit of his leader effect. So playing this guy, remove 3, go down to 5. You activate your Cell Leader's ability to put yourself up to 6, with that 6 energy being resettable. I think is really strong. It gives you a little bit of extra defense to be able to defend yourself with a Gigantic Meteor or one of the other extra cards that were announced in this set. Maybe a Instant Transmission Kamehameha. I mean, this is a really strong card. Will this replace Broly? Absolutely not. I think when it comes to running Cell Leader, you want to run multiple copies of this guy with maybe a Broly as a backup if you need to. Playing this in... You're not really going to be playing a whole lot of these, I think, in Android 17 too much. I think Broly is just a better option for Android 17. But you could run this as like a last resort in Android 17. And I think you could say the same for Broly. You could say the same for Gohan. I think running this guy as a one-of, as like a last option, isn't the worst idea for them. But you're not playing these a lot in other decks. But Cell greatly benefits from having 4 of this guy in play, especially if you're able to ramp up to 8 every turn. I think it's an option that is too good for the Cell Leader. This actually helps to make Cell viable come late game. So then we got the Cell Junior, which couples this more into the Cell Leader. So he's 2 cost, 15k, 10k combo. Permanent. If you have a Cell battle card with a cost of 8 or more in your battle area, you can use and play this card from your hand without paying its cost. And then on play, you can add up to 1 extra from your drop to your hand. This is a great card because, again, you play the Cell, you go down to 5, activate Cell Leader, go to 6. You can play this guy for free to pull that Gigantic Meteor or Instant Kamehameha from your drop to your hand, allowing you to play it essentially for free come next turn. It is such a strong utility card. And then you coupled with the idea that if you have multiple Cell Juniors in hand, you can play them all for free, and you can maybe even get an extra swing or 2 off by comboing them with one another. Heck, you could even use the Gigantic Meteor to swing and play on the offensive if you wanted to. There is a lot of versatility when it comes to this Cell engine playing with the Cell Leader. But again, this card is strictly tied to the 8-drop Cell. If you're not playing the 8-drop Cell, you're not going to get much use out of this guy. So that's kind of like up in the air. Then we got a 3 cost, 15k power, 5k combo Goku. Activate main. Once per turn, if your leader is Son Gohan Childhood, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with a cost of 5 or less and add it to its owner's energy in rest mode. Then add this card to your energy in rest mode. This is a really interesting way to ramp because it's 15k. So on turn 3, you could swing into leader with this and actually, use them. Then you can activate his ability, remove a card off your opponent's board, and yeah, it's going into your opponent's energy, but at least it's going in rest mode, so they can't defend during that turn. And usually when it comes to like red specifically, red doesn't really want to charge more than 5 in most scenarios. So if anything, this is just a nice removal option with just a very minor drawback, very minor. And then this is all. He also ramps your own energy, so you're going from 3 to 4 by playing this guy. It's a very interesting option. I think what the one thing that this set is actually doing really well with green is that it's giving green decks more options, different options to ramp. And we'll go into it more when we come across some other cards here, but I think it's very telling that that with a lot of these cards, it's giving you other options to ramp. Like this one in particular. So, 2 cost, 20k power, 0 combo, Sun Gohan Childhood. On play, place 1 card from your energy into your drop, and then add the top card of your deck to your energy. I think this is a really good card, personally, because you're giving yourself a 20k option that you can play on board that will allow you to swing at their leader to play a bit more on the aggressive side. And it's not necessarily a ramp, but it's allowing you to basically remove a rested energy to play an energy inactive to allow you to play. Maybe you want to play a 1-drop cantrip. Maybe you want to play a searcher. Maybe you want to play that 1-drop Kami that KOs a 1 cost on the board. Like, this is a really solid card to play on turn 2. It gives a little bit more offensive pressure for green in the early game, which is something that I personally always thought that green needed a little bit more of, because green right now in set 1 is just a sitting duck for the first 3 turns. You're not really playing much to kind of keep yourself alive and apply that pressure. Like, this is just a really nice option to add in the green. So, again, a lot of what's going on in green right now for this set, it's just options to kind of mess around in different play styles for green, which is nice. Then we got the 6 cost, 35k power, 10k combo Sun Gohan. If you have a Sun Goku in your drop, this card gains double strike. This is a cool option for green as well. You know, being able to maybe if you were at 5 energy with Cell and you use his ability to go up to 6 and you want to play this guy for a little bit of extra pressure on turn 6, not the worst play to go here. 35k and having some double strike is really strong, and then having the 10k combo, is also a nice benefit. Now it's a matter of how do you want to build your deck though, because we also have the 6-drop Life Gohan that procs off of the Android 16. I don't think Android 16 is going to really get much play, I think, going into next set. So it really kind of makes you wonder, do I want to have a little bit of extra defensive potential by playing Lycon? Do I want to be more aggressive and play this Gohan? I think again, it's more options for green, and it gives you a little bit more to work with. Then we got 5 cost Sun Gohan Future, 30k power, 10k combo. All of your battle cards with a cost of 3 cannot be removed from the battle area by your opponent's skills. And then at the end of your turn, you choose one of these effects. Play up to 1 battle card with a cost of 3 or less from your hand. Choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with a cost of 3 or less and KO it. I think this is a very strong card, especially coupled with the 3-drop Trunks, which we'll get into. Giving your board just a little bit of sustainability to kind of keep that pressure on board is kind of nice. Or having an opportunity for removal if this guy's able to stay on board for an extra turn, I think is a really nice option, all things considered. Then we got 1 cost Chi-Chi, 5k power, 5k combo. Look at top 5 cards of your deck on play. Reveal 1 Sun Goku or 1 Sun Gohan and add it to your hand. Place the rest at the bottom. No cost restriction on this, which is nice. I think this is a nice option. Looking at your top 5, again, I'm not a fan of these searchers personally. I think a lot of times, considering most of the cards will go to the bottom of your deck, if you end up pulling some of your high or late game stuff early from these, it really sets you back. But again, having a searcher option that doesn't have a cost restriction, like the set 1 Gohan searcher, I think is kind of nice personally. But it is restricted on the fact that you need a Sun Gohan Childhood or a Sun Goku. And while there are options for that in green, it's not as grand as I think people make it out to be. So it just is what it is. Here's the 3 cost Trunks. 20k combo, 20k power, 5k combo. On play, if you have 5 or more energy, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to your energy in rest mode. And then once per turn, when your battle card with a cost of 5 or more is removed from the battle area by your opponent, this card gets 10,000 power until the end of your next turn. So you play this guy for 20. Your Sun Gohan gets removed, and then he goes up to 30 until your next turn, which allows him to stay on board just a little bit longer. It makes it a little bit easier to kind of combo to keep him on board if you really wanted to. Plus, having that extra option if you wanted to ramp with this guy while building your board, it's not the worst thing. So I think this Trunks is actually really, really good. Coupled with the Gohan. If the Gohan didn't have that permanent skill, I think this guy wouldn't be as good, but he does. So it's nice that it's a paired option. Then you have Trunks Future, 4-drop, 40k, 5k combo. At the end of your turn, you place 1 card from your energy in your drop. I don't know how good this guy's gonna be. I think if you don't have the end pieces that you need for Cell, I could maybe see if you play this guy at 6 or at, because you ramp with his ability to go up to 6. You play this guy for a little bit of extra pressure on that ramp, and then you go from 6 to 5, keeping Cell at that 5 range that you kind of want to be at. I don't think it's a bad option. I don't think it's a bad option at all, personally. But outside of situations like that, I don't know how often you're going to see this guy in play. We'll just have to see. He is swole, though. He's a really big boy. Then we got 2-cost, 20k power, 5k combo Paragus from the Broly movie. When KO'd, if you have 6 or more energy, add up to 1 Broly BR from your drop to your hand. I don't know how often we're gonna see this guy being used either, but I can't tell you how many times that I've gotten critted, and the crit option that I have to throw into my discard is a Broly, and then therefore when I have 8 energy, I don't have a Broly in hand to play. So having this guy as an option, I think, isn't the worst thing, being able to get a Broly back into hand. That said, he's only 20k power, and Frieza, basically yellow decks can just keep this guy sitting and rest and never have to KO him. Red can just neg him off board and not have that ability go off. Again, I just don't know how viable this guy's going to be against other decks. But in a green matchup, I don't see this being that hard to play around, so I guess that's something. Then we got a 3-cost, 25k power, 5k Piccolo. On play, choose up to 1 of your Kami battle cards and add it to your energy in rest mode. I believe this would have to be on board instead and not just hand. So if you can couple this with the 1-drop Kami, I guess it's not a bad way to ramp, but I'm not the biggest fan of waiting 2 turns to have an option like this, to play an option like this, or just having this guy in hand and not being able to play him because I don't have a Kami on board. I'm not a fan of this type of play style. If it's something that you like to play and you like that type of support and versatility, good on you. But for me personally, I don't think this is all that great. At the very least, he is 25k power, so he can do some damage to your opponent. But outside of that, I'm not a fan of cards that do that effect. Then we got a 1-drop Bulma, 5k power, 10k combo. Once per turn, activate main, discard 1 card from your hand, draw 1 card. Again, I'm not a big fan when it comes to green early on. Swapping 1 for 1, you're not really getting hand draw or hand advantage by playing something like this. And in all honesty, it kind of sucks turn 1 because you have to play her to then discard a card only to draw a card. If your hand whiffs, if you get a really bad starting hand, I could see some versatility with this, but you're a -1 at that point by playing her. So unless we get more options down the line to allow us to play her for free, I just don't see much use for that Bulma. Then we got a 7-cost, 40,000 power Broly, 10k combo. Activate main once per turn. If your leader is Broly, choose 1 of your battle cards and 1 of your opponent's battle cards and add them to the owner's energy in rest mode. I think this is a really good option for Broly, personally, because depending on how you end up ramping, you're not going to get... Sometimes you might not get to that 8-cost Broly fast enough. And so sometimes you'll be sitting at 7 and you need an option. And this guy's a really solid option that would actually be good, because not only does this allow you to pseudo remove something off your opponent's board with no restriction, but it also helps you to ramp up to 8 going into next turn. So I think this is a cool option. It's a good option. We'll just have to see how often you're going to see this being played. Again, it's really dependent on how you ramp, but I think it's a solid option for Broly specifically nonetheless. Then we got a vanilla 3-cost, 25k power, 10k combo Vegeta. Again, strong vanilla card. Can't really complain about it. Doesn't do anything crazy. It's just a vanilla option. Then we got the 2-cost 10k power 10k combo Hercule. On play, if you have 6 or more energy, add up to 2 cards with costs of 1 or less and Earthling and their special traits from your drop to your hand. This is what I was referring to when it came to that 5k blocker that we talked about earlier. This would be the only time I think you would ever use those guys. And I think you would probably use them more so for combo power as opposed to, you know, playing them to block. But having this option, I guess, in the late game, if you are behind on ramp and you need something to kind of build up your ramp for cheap, I guess this is a decent option. Well, but no, you're not ramping though, aren't you? No, you're not. I got ahead of myself here. It's going to your hand. Again, I don't know how versatile this guy's really going to be. I mean, he's got combo potential, but he's doing nothing on board. And 1 cost or less Earthlings, like why would you be playing that stuff so early on or so late in the game? I just don't. I don't know. I don't know how viable Hercule is personally. Then we got 2-cost, 20k power, 5k combo Yamcha. If you have 6 or more energy and this card's in rest mode, your opponent can only attack Yamcha battle cards. I think this guy's actually not bad. I don't know how often you're using him either, but 20k power is pretty good, at least against most leaders. And kind of floodgating your opponent to have to try and take this guy off board, I think is good. It gives you a little more survivability, especially if you're low on life. So not the worst card, I think, to play towards the end game. But definitely something you kind of have to take into account depending on the build you go with, whatever leader you end up going with. Now we're going to go into the extra cards. We got a 7-cost Awakening to Perfect Form. Activate main, you place 1 cell with a cost of 3 from your energy or battle area in your drop to play up to 1 cell with a cost of 8 from your hand. This is... I don't want to say this card's bad because it allows you to play the 8-cost cell for cheap. And if you have the 3-cost cell vanilla on board, this late in the game, I could see some usability with this card. But that being said, like, it's very cost heavy. It's specifically when you're on 7 energy, maybe come turn 5 or 6, and you have to have that cell in play. So while you are playing the cell for 1 cost cheaper, you're removing something off. You're removing something either out of your energy or on the battle area to be able to play this guy. And then you're also playing this card to then go down to... You're basically minusing 2 from hand and minusing 1 from border energy. It's a very costly card, and I don't know if you're going to see this being played as often as we think we will, personally. It's a good option, though. It's a good option to play the 8 cost for cheap. Then we got the 3-cost Tragedy in Gingertown. Activate main. If your leader is Cell, choose any number of your battle cards with Earthling in their special traits and add them to your energy in rest mode. Another option that I think, again, you may not necessarily see this played too often, but if you get the right deck composition and you have 3 Earthling cards, if you have a lot of Earthling cards on play early on, you could ramp up really good. I think realistically, I think you could see playing this for 3, having 3 Earthling cards on the board come turn 3, and then you ramp those 3 to go from 3 to 6. I think this is possible. You could definitely do this, but it's really going to depend on what your matchup is against. Because again, red's going to be removing stuff pretty easily. Yellow will be resting stuff and removing stuff off board pretty easily. Green now has the potential to do some early game removal. Blue obviously does what blue does and sends stuff back to hand. Like, I just don't know how often you're going to see this card, but I think there's a possibility that, you know, in best case scenario, you go from 3 to 6, maybe even 3 to 7, depending on how those turns go. But again, it's an option. It's an option. This, however, isn't that bad. 4 energy. Cell Games Arena. It's a field card. And activate main, switch this card to rest mode. If your leader is Cell, look at the top card of your deck and add it to your hand or add it to your energy in rest mode. I think personally this is a much better Jiro's Lab, because you're playing this one turn later than you would Giroux's Lab. But Giroux's Lab, you're usually playing on turn 3, and you have to pay an energy to use it. Whereas with this, you don't have to pay energy into it. So you can ramp turn 1. You can ramp on the turn that this is played, or you can give yourself an extra card in hand if you're lacking hand advantage. I think this is a really solid field card. You couple this with the Cell Leader, who needs to be able to ramp up to 8 as soon as possible. I think this is a pretty decent option for turn 4, personally. Then we got Sensu Bean. Again, with Korin Tower, I think this card's a bit more usable than it was before. It takes that 2 cost down to a 1, and then activate main for 3. Add the top card of your deck to your life. So you're paying for 4 energy as opposed to 5 energy. You'd be activating this, and then activate battle. Choose your leader or up to one of your battle cards, and it gets 5,000 power for the turn, which is a nice little bit of sustainability. I think you'd use this more on your leader than you would your battle cards. And this would put an Awakened Leader up to 25,000 for the turn against your opponent. I think it's a decent card to be able to play this for 1 if you have the Korin on board, but I don't know. This Sensu Bean is not as good as the Sensu Bean in Masters, in my opinion. It just isn't. Then we got 2 cost Earth Destroying Blow. Activate battle. Choose your leader up to one of your battle cards, and it gets 25,000 power for the turn or for the battle. Then, if you have 6 or more energy, look at the top part of your deck and add it to your hand, or add it to your energy in rest mode. It's basically Cell Games Arena. That's also Gigantic Meteor. I think this is a really good card. But it's going to be the matter of you're paying 2, in which case you're better off just playing Gigantic Meteor. But I guess it's an option if you need to continue ramping or you need to add a card to hand. This isn't a bad option either. But I think that is going to do it for the Green Archetype. Let me know what you guys think of Green this set. I think Green. I don't think Green definitely is peaking anymore. I think Green is just given options with set 2. That allows these set 1 decks to play a little bit differently and give you options, while also really hammering home the fact that the Cell was kind of very underutilized in the early reveals that were kind of going in. So I think Cell is sitting in a much better spot than he was before. Where he'll stand against the other Green leaders, it kind of remains to be seen. But at the very least, Green didn't get some game-breaking stuff that's going to really keep it at the top. I think it just gives options in terms of how to play Green. And I think that's really what Green needed, in all honesty. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider hitting that like button to help support the channel. It helps with the algorithm and stuff. Subscribe for more Fusion World content, and I'll see you guys in the final Archetype breakdown video later in the week. So I will see you guys later. Peace.